we remember Loyola Don Dan McNeal, class of 1990, who lost his life in the September 11th attacks on the World Trade Center. We honor Dan's memory by presenting to a current Loyola Don the Dan McNeal Award. Today, we welcome Dan's mother, Mrs. Kitty McNeal, the entire McNeal family, and Dan's classmates from the class of 1990. Before we present this year's award, it is my honor to introduce Mike Dieter, class of 1990, who will share with you some reflections about his friend and classmate, Dan McNeal. Mike.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Day, Marinacci. Thank you to the faculty, staff, and students. Thank you to Dan's family and my classmates from 1990 for coming together today. Thank you also to Pat Muth for entrusting me with this responsibility. For those of you who don't recognize me or don't remember me, my name is Michael Wegner, and I'm a member of the class of 1990. That's Dan's class. This is the first time in several years that I have been able to attend this Mass of the Holy Spirit. And as difficult as it is for me to find time living just a few minutes away, it is even more difficult for those 1990 Dons who now make their home much farther away. I know that Pat, who does an outstanding job, by the way, received regrets from many of them, and I would like to share with you some words from another of our classmates, Jason Loden. Unfortunately, sneaking away from the office to make it there from Charlotte isn't possible this morning, but all of you, and especially Dan, will be in my thoughts on Thursday. He inspired all of us, and we are each better for having known him, if even for such a short time. Without question, a common sentiment in all of the responses that Pat received. I must admit that I'm here today without a great story about Dan and the good old days at Loyola in the late 1980s. Actually, there will be many better speakers who come after me, and they deserve the chance to tell those. However, I would like to take this brief time to use the memory of Dan to point us towards the future and to strengthen and honor that memory by modeling our own actions on what most certainly would have been his. On September 11th, 2001, Dan was taken from us in an act of unprecedented violence. Tragically, we have seen just recently how the families of Stephen Sotloff and the family of James Foley have similarly become victims of the same empty and barbaric ideology of violence. And this is but the worst example of countless others here in our city, across our country, and around our world that are occurring with alarming frequency. And yet when we think of Dan, violence is absolutely the last thing that comes to mind, precisely because it was the last thing that would ever come to his mind. And so that is a challenge that we must confront, and I recommend that we do so with Dan as our guide. It is up to us to build a future that leaves no room for violence of any kind or in any form, because it is simply not acceptable to risk the loss of anyone, much less another Dan. And I know just what Dan would do and take up this challenge. He would surely think big. He would conceive bold plans completely without fear. He would win over even the biggest of skeptics with his enthusiasm, and he would not give up. What do? It's not that hard. Exactly like Dan, never stop thinking critically in pursuing academic excellence in the classroom. Just as Dan did, act with purpose as a leader outside of it, whether in clubs, activities, student government, or athletics. And always, as Dan did, ground yourself in compassion and respect for those around you. Surely, with Dan by our side, and these, our strong Jesuit values behind us, we will succeed. So thank you again for listening, and know that the honor awarded in Dan's name this morning is given to one especially deserving young man. But make no mistake, each of us leaves today with the special gift of Dan's legacy. And in closing, I hope you can forgive me for not reminiscing about how Dan and our class of 1990 were meant for others in the past. Rather, I ask that you be inspired to take Dan with you now, and most importantly, take him forward with you as you continue to be true men for others. Thank you.
Good morning. The Daniel W. McNeal Scholarship Award is given in loving memory of Dan McNeal, member of the Loyola Blakefield class of 1990. A faculty member described Dan to me as the example of the man Loyola seeks to foster: involved, energetic, brimming over with enthusiasm for life and anything Loyola, and a friend to all he met. Dan led his life giving of himself and thinking of others first. This award is given to that member of the junior or senior class who embodies the characteristics we hold dear in Jesuit education. One who lives his faith in word and deed, displays academic excellence, is actively engaged in his community, and most of all, exemplifies being a man for others. The recipient of the 13th Annual McNeal Scholarship Award carries on Dan's legacy as an exemplary Don in every aspect. In the classroom, one of his teachers states that he stood out in every class because of his curiosity and desire to learn more. He certainly strives for academic excellence given his achievement in honors and advanced placement courses. Much like Dan McNeal, this young man's accomplishments go beyond the academic realm. He trains tirelessly year-round as a runner and serves as the captain of the cross-country team this year. In addition to his passion for running, he has strong creative abilities. He began to study violin in the 3rd grade and continues to do so today, often playing at church. He won the Loyola Art Award in both his freshman and sophomore years and is taking advanced painting as one of his senior electives. When it comes to giving his time to others, this young man belongs to 2 religious youth groups outside of Loyola, and he also went on a Loyola summer service trip to West Virginia this past summer. His chaperone from that trip states that, quote, he is as genuine as they come. In short, his sincerity, inexhaustible energy, and unwavering pursuit of his goals inspire those around him. In his own words, from his application to Loyola Blakefield in 2010, this year's recipient wrote, quote, when most people think of me, they think of me as a runner. Although running is a huge part of my life, there are many other interests I would like to write about. Michael, 4 years later, I think it's safe to say that no one who knows you would consider you to be just a runner. Exemplifying what it means to be a Loyola Don in the same fashion that Dan did, it's our honor to have Dan's mother, Ms. Kitty McNeal, join us to present this year's Dan McNeal Scholarship Award to senior Michael Paul Wegner.